Covington Board of Adjustment regular meeting for November the 20th, 2023 to order. May we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Butler?
Here.
Mr. Huval? Absent. Ms. Bourgeois?
Here.
Mr. Himes? Absent. Ms. Williams?
Here.
Okay, the third thing on the docket is the approval of the minutes from our previous meeting, and those came to us in the packet or via email. Do I have any corrections, deletions, or additions to the minutes as they were sent out? Hearing none, I would ask for approval of the minutes, motion to approve the minutes from last meeting.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Butler?
Yes.
Ms. Bourgeois? Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Okay, the first case on our docket tonight is a variance request from the Code of Ordinances, City of Covington, Louisiana, Article 4, Fill Regulations, Chapter 18, Buildings and Building Regulations, Section 18-152, Fill Placement Requirements for all zoning districts and flood zones, Section 18-153. Criteria for fill placement for all zoning districts, site improvements, and Section 18-154, flood zones A, A1-A30, and AE, 3, which titles accessory uses. The variance request is to be permitted to place excess fill under the detached 30 by 80 accessory and to allow fill for an inclined and raised driveway that will provide access to, oh, I love it, and ability to park in the said new garage building. The 4.92 acre property designated as Lot A, located in Section 44, Township 7, South Range 11 East, City of Covington. The site's municipal address is 510 South America Street, Covington, Louisiana, 70433, and we have Mr. Greg Barr, who wishes to speak first, owner of the property.
Good evening.
Yeah, just pull it towards you. Yeah.
Okay. I'm Greg Barr. My wife and I purchased the property at 510 South America Street this year. It's a beautiful historic building on 5 acres. There are only 2 shortcomings with the property. One is that there's very limited storage in the building, except in the 3rd floor attic, which is accessed by a winding 3-foot wide stairwell. And there is no enclosed parking on the property. I'm active in car restoration and have a collection, and I can't leave those cars outside. So the project really is to build a garage and a storage area for the property. Initially, the parcel was 2 parcels that were combined in May of 2022. The proposed site for the garage is on parcel 2, which was recently added. If the parcels had not been combined, this building wouldn't be considered an accessory building. It would be a main building. It would have a different fill code applied to it.
Mm-hmm.
The site we've selected is the highest location on the property. It has an elevation of 16.1. The main house elevation is 16.5, but that has a slab. So with 6 inches of fill and a slab, we could get to 16.5, and we got offered that as a solution with flood hardening of the first foot and adding flood flaps. But because the building isn't attached to the main structure, that wouldn't work, and we don't want to attach a garage to a beautiful historic building. The entire property is FEMA flood zone A15. To build anything on our property, the top of slab has to be 17.5 feet, 1 foot of freeboard above base flood elevation. We can't get there with just 6 inches. So we've asked for permission to add 18 inches to bring the top of slab up to 17.5. There are 2 documents that we provided in advance. One is a survey of the property with the elevations where the site we're proposing is, and then elevations down the hill to the river. And as you can see, it's a very strong gradient, so the water is going to flow freely. One of the concerns that has been raised is whether flood water would be obstructed by the building and cause a problem for our neighbor, who's also here and I think going to speak. We also submitted a drainage plan, and that drainage plan caused my neighbor to have some concern. Friday night, I called a design engineer, and he said I can add swales to the drainage plan. And he did that this morning, brought them over, and Roland and I spent probably close to 2 hours reviewing those plans. It was too late to have the engineer go back and revise his drawing. So what we did is we marked up the revised drawing he brought with the swales. We did, in my mind, 4 major things. We widened and deepened the swales that he proposed. We have moved the building another 5 feet from the property line, so we have 25 feet setback from Roland's property. We've added a rain gutter to the back of the building. We'll probably add it to the front also, but that would catch any rainwater that might be directed toward Roland's property off of the roof, and that would be directed also into those swales. And then the 4th thing we did, which I think will really help Roland also, is we're going to extend the swale from our property to his property to help drain some of the water that sits in the back of his yard. So we think it was a pretty good win-win situation, and I think the only thing I have to do is to wrap up is to ask permission to exceed the city's ordinance of 6 inches so that we can have a garage and storage space built on the property. I don't know if you have any questions on what I presented or what we submitted or what I forgot to talk about.
When you said swale, I always thought a swale was an incline rather than you said the depth of the swale, so.
Yeah, the swale is sort of like a drainage gutter, but it's wider and
Oh,
flatter.
a ditch, okay.
Fancy word for a ditch.
I thought it was like a mound, you know, I've seen them, they call them swales in public areas.
The difference between the swale and a ditch is that the sides are broader. It's a more gradual incline from both sides. These swales will be, at some point, 5 feet wide.
And they're made out of dirt.
They're basically carved out of the dirt in the final grading.
You usually see them actually, the swale's contour is usually where you put grass in it, you can mow it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
as deep.
So as the swale widens, unless you knew it was there, you probably wouldn't realize
I
it.
think it was just a dip in the yard.
But if you look at the survey that shows the elevations as you go down, those swales will carry it to the steepest part of the property. So it probably is going to drain better now than it did before the building went in.
Do you want to say something, Rod?
No, I don't have any comment. I mean, it's
Okay.
not an unusual request. I also note that he's got a limestone or gravel drive. He would have been entitled to put 6 inches of fill under the entire drive, which he's not doing. He's using, porous material for his drive, which is gonna minimize the water impact. And then I presume he's going to have the fill contained, because he's going over 12 inches, over 6 inches, no, over 12 inches. So he's gonna contain his fill under his foundation. And I would presume there would also be a slight fill variance to make it slope up to an even access to the drive, to the
Yes,
carport.
yeah, that's
So
included, yeah. Mhm.
it's under the building, and then whatever it takes to reach the elevation of the slab of the carport.
I think probably Roland wants to speak also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask the city engineer, and I noticed your comment here was that you had no problem with that. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
County is-
Cal,
Yeah, your comment here says that it's as long as the drive, as the site is graded appropriately, correct? Yes. Okay. Okay. So the next speaker, thank you. I don't
Thank you.
have, I'm sorry, does anybody have any questions?
I know.
Okay. Mr. Gallatin, is that how you say it? Or is it?
Yes, thank you. Roland Gallatin, 530 South America Street. And my property is between the back of Greg's Garage and South America Street. So my backyard, as we look out into our backyard, we will see, we see his property and where the garage will be. The initial concerns I had are that my backyard doesn't drain properly as it is, and the roof of this structure and the initial drainage plan would have put more water into my backyard. So that we've been talking last week and this afternoon. Modifications have been made, as he mentioned, and I just want to make sure that we're all talking about the same thing. The current revised drainage plan has red marked in the bottom right-hand corner. So it says preliminary, not for construction. I would say it is preliminary for construction purposes, but for this fill variance, it is the final drainage plan.
If you granted, you could make the field variance conditioned upon the amended drainage plan,
Which is this.
which is what he agreed to, yeah.
And other than that, I have no other comments.
Okay.
Thank you.
So,
Do you have any questions?
So you said you have a drainage problem now,
Yes.
and where does that from?
Well, my backyard drains in 3 different directions. So primarily, one of the directions is to Greg's property. And so if a building there and additional fill is going to obstruct what is slow drainage already. The initial drainage plan was not taking into account how that water was going to flow. But this one with the ditches will. So there'll be one swale or one ditch in the corner of my property, which will tie into the swales that are in this diagram and will actually assist in draining my property.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
I didn't know whether this was a typo that on your comments, but here it says sheet flow. Is that a specific kind of water flow?
Flowing across the surface of the
Oh, okay,
land.
okay. All right. And then, no, go ahead, Mick.
Yep, I'm happy to make a motion to approve as based on the submitted revised drainage plan.
The amended one.
Yes, the amended.
I second. Roll call, please.
Ms. Butler?
Yes.
Ms. Bourgeois?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Right. Second case on the docket tonight is number 23-11-15 BOA, a variance request from the Code of Ordinances of the City of Covington, Louisiana, Appendix B, Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance of 2010, Part 3, Use District, Section 3.11, RLL Single Family Residential, Large Lots. The variance requested, a variance from Section 3.1106, Number 6, Performance Standards, lot depth of not less than 20% of the lot and shall be no less than 25 feet and need not exceed 50 feet. The applicant is requesting a reduction in the rear setback requirements up to 15% of the lot depth, which would allow a 30 feet rear setback for construction in conjunction with a variance from the sections 311-1, Table 311-1. Performance standards minimum yard setbacks for a single-family detached dwelling for applicable to a rear yard setback from 20% to 15%. Property is .92 acres, designated as Lot 5B in the city of Covington, and has a municipal address of 832 East 4th Avenue, Covington, Louisiana, near East 4th Avenue and the River Bogafalaya River, in the city of Covington, Louisiana. And we have Chris Remsen, who's going to come talk. And this is his property.
Thank you. I'm Chris Remsen. I'm supposed to give my address, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, I live at 2970 Point Marie Drive in Baton Rouge. I'm here with my wife Trula, who's also a petitioner with me. We are both architects, and we've designed this house and plan to move here when it's built. The issue is having to do with the rear setback, but I believe you all received a page that has 2 renderings on it and also a site plan, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to point out that, first of all, the lot, as you can see, is a very odd-shaped lot. It's surrounded by water on 3 sides, which caused us all kind of fun in getting here. But the rear setback that was granted by the planning department was 40 foot, which is 20% of the depth. The real issue that's not evident on this map is if you look at the plan, and if you see that little square-shaped parking pad up at the top here, that's existing. That's a parking pad at about elevation 4 feet. If you draw a line from the top edge of that to that little dark square that's called out as existing well pump shed, if you just draw that line across there, everything to the north, or the top of that, basically, it drops off at that point, and this is all, in fact, right now it's underwater. So the point is we have very little land on the front of the house, which is on the top. So obviously that pushes the house back and causes us a problem at the bottom. We were granted the 40-foot setback, which did work to a point. The problem is that it forced us to turn the stairs, and that's what the 2 renderings are for. The top rendering shows the way the plans were approved with the stairs going to the side, but we feel like it really doesn't support the design of the house, and it causes additional paving and all sorts of things like that. So what we're asking for, we asked in our petition that we be granted the 30-foot setback in order to simply turn the stairs from the sides to the rear. But I just want to be very clear, we're asking for that 30-foot rear setback, and if granted, what we intend to do is to do what I just said, turn the stairs facing forward and put the leading edge at the 30-foot line. And the reason I point this out, if you look at this side of the site here, you can see that the property line goes up a little bit at an angle. So I mentioned in our petition that we have no intention of moving the house forward beyond the 40-foot line, and we really don't, except that because of that angled line, if we set the stairs at 30 foot and come back, about 2.5 to 3 feet of the overhang will extend into the rear yard. I know, and I bring this up because I know that, we made the point we don't intend to move the house forward, and that the city was concerned about how close it is going to be to the river. But I'd like to add a couple things in support of this. One is that the living area of the house still is beyond 50 feet from the rear property line. It's just the porch that's contentious. This property is not visible from any other street or anything like that. I don't think we're going to have neighbors going out and measuring. And finally, the water's edge is actually about 6 foot further than the rear property line, the normal water's edge. We went out and surveyed it. The stake is on dry land. We've actually built the bulkhead now, and it's further out. So for those reasons, we feel like doing what we have drawn here is not going to adversely affect anyone. It allows us to keep the design as was intended, and and we hope you'll see that this is not intruding on any intent of the code. So
I may be oversimplifying it. The house meets the rear setback. Literally, it's whether his stairs go perpendicular to the house or parallel to the house. That's the variance.
So the stairs are in the setback, not the house.
Right.
And then
right,
Mark-
and as I said, if we do set the house this way, because of that angle of the rear line, looking from the river, the left corner of the house will actually extend past the setback by a couple of feet, but no living area is even close. It's just, it's tricky out there because there's no straight line. There's like 30 property lines, so.
Right.
So I hope I was clear on that. I know it's a little confusing.
As the owner of a triangle lot, I feel you. I understand.
We fought the good fight. This took about, we're here at the end of a long debate on the property.
Any other comments, Rod? No? The engineer had said in her comments that as long as it's only concerning the stairs, then that would be okay.
Right. I make a motion to approve.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Ms. Butler?
Yes.
Ms. Bourgeois?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Let's see.
I like this list. It's nice.
So, do we have any other business from the administration? No?
No other business. Do you have
Um,
any other business?
You have no meeting next month. So
We're
Merry
glad to hear
Christmas to
that.
everybody.
Merry
Right.
Christmas.
Meeting is adjourned.